What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's going on with the market this far, what you should be watching for as time progresses, what news is affecting Teslas. We have some big news coming out involving the Giga Berlin, and how things are looking moving forward. But before I break anything devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon. Anyways, looking at Tesla, we have a very, very strong uptrend that is developing after getting this breakout move, and Tesla's continuing to push for higher highs and higher lows as the chart is looking bullish. But the question is, will Tesla continue to push up from here, or are we about to get some kind of disruption? I'll be breaking down more details about this over the next couple of minutes. First, let's talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow, there's pretty much no data coming out. We do have some crude oil data at 1 p.m., but it's all very, very minor. And at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, a couple of hours after the market opens, basically, we have Logan from the Fed giving a speech. And just be careful because Logan is known for being a little bit more on the hawkish side. He's the second most hawkish speaker according to this chart. So be a little bit careful, guys. We will have to wait and see what Logan has to say. Now, on top of this, we had some earnings that came out. We had Affirm, we had Pinterest, we had Expedia all coming out, but everything was very minor. So I'm not going to talk about the full details about them for now. I just want to mention that PepsiCo is going to be tomorrow morning. I'll talk about that one tomorrow. But for now, earnings are very, very minor. Now, one thing that is a little bit important for the markets is the fact that the fear and greed index is at extreme greed. This is an indicator that we have to be a little bit more careful as things become more and more risky. Now, why is this important? Because when the market's at extreme greed, this is when we tend to see a lot of those buyers come in. People become a lot more excited, looking for new highs, pushing, 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 buying like crazy. But that's when you want to be careful because when everyone turns too greedy, this is when the market makers like to yank the markets down. So be careful, guys. Be very, very mindful of this. We just entered extreme greed a few days ago. Could last a little bit longer, but once again, this tends to be what happens when the market's in the topping process. Now, market momentum's at extreme greed. Other things are at extreme greed, the put and call positioning, and they could remain like this for another week, guys. The market could still hold up for a while. It's still possible. But I'm just saying you need to be very, very careful. Be very cautious when trading, when looking at SPY and these tickers. We have to be very careful. The VIX is also currently still dropping. It looks like it could drop more as the market may pump higher, but be careful when we hit some psychological levels, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Now, for SPY, we have over 875,000 puts expiring, and we have just about half of that, a little bit over 400,000 calls expiring, with a 2.00 puts to call ratio, right? Max Payne's at 492, so we'll have to see how this ends up going. But as a market maker, we could see this actually to a little pump in the markets temporarily. But then if SPY does pump higher and higher as we get close to the psychological 500, you want to be careful there because you never know what's going to happen once we hit that crazy level. Because at 500, we could see some profit takers. So you want to be very careful. On top of this, when it comes to Tesla, we have some big news. Tesla plans to restart production at the German Gigafactory next week on February 12th. They were shutting it down for quite a while due to supply chain disruptions because of what's happening at the Red Sea, according to Electrek. This is technically good news for Tesla. Tesla's uptrending. Now, with Tesla making this announcement, they're also prepared for a Model Y production restart in Germany, which is great news for them. We had their production halted from January 29th through February 11th due to things that were going on in the Red Sea, and also because of how this disrupted Tesla's supply chains. On top of this, there's also more talk about how things are intact again. That's a good piece of news. And they're once again getting necessary security for their production parts are available at sufficient quantities to be able to restart completely. Even more good news for them. They also mentioned that their headcount in the facility has increased to 12,500 employees, and they achieved an output of 6,000 Model Ys in just 1 week. That was just before the temporary halt. Good news for Tesla. Awesome stuff so far. And with that reopening coming, that is absolutely incredible for Tesla's bullish news for now. Now, with that being said, volume was about 83 million, not the strongest of volume, but it's still holding up very nicely on low volume. Short volume is dropping as we're starting to see more buyers stepping in, only about 45% short volume. And overall for Tesla, this thing is still holding up decently. Daiwa Capital is giving Tesla a buy, not a buy, a neutral rating. They kind of downgraded just a little bit. But Piper Sandler is giving Tesla an overweight rating, which is actually pretty good. Price price ratio is bouncing as Tesla's gaining some strength. And also, when it comes to seasonality, at 11 a.m. and also 2 p.m., we tend to see more volatility. Fridays tend to be green about 49% of the time. And there's so much more that's going on. So far, so good for Tesla. Things are improving. And now I just want to break down more details. So, looking at Tesla, okay, this thing is on an uptrend, making higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. It is uptrending. But notice a pattern, okay? Look what happened a couple of days ago. We opened up and notice this pattern. So I can actually go up back a little bit further. So Tesla basically dumped last week, then it pumped. It dumped and pumped after opening. It dumped and then pumped after opening. Here it actually pumped and then dumped as we opened like a few hours later before it pumped. Here it gapped up, dumped and pumped. Here it basically gapped up again. We essentially dumped when we opened, then we pumped again. So are we going to gap up tomorrow, dump and then pump again? That seems to be the pattern. That's what Tesla's been doing for many, 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 many days. There's a very good chance we're going to see something very similar again. So far, the trend is still quite good for Tesla. Now, I also want to note that we've been developing a bullish wedge-like formation. So you can actually draw out your trend line just like this. You could even go like halfway between the wicks just to show you. But Tesla's getting tighter and tighter, trying to push from here. Are we going to just kind of like push here, grab liquidity, come back within the wedge, and then start to break out? That is a real possibility. So that's another bullish signal. The overall market structure is bullish, and then we have an inverse head and shoulders like structure with a slight uptrend. This is looking bullish as well. So a lot of confluences that are suggesting Tesla might go higher. What do I think is going to pan out? I think something similar to today, except with a little bit more of a twist. So we might see Tesla drop when we open. It might gap up and then drop basically. Grab liquidity right here at 188 or so, maybe a little lower, then push back up towards 190. If we break that with SPY breaking out, we could be looking for one more push to the upside back into the lower 190s. 192 is a real possibility, maybe even higher. Then we might come back down towards the end of the day because of Logan. Logan giving his speech could slow us down a little bit. We might end up getting a decent close for Tesla, still closing quite well. We'll see if Tesla could close above 190. Overall, I do anticipate a little drop when we open, then a pump, and maybe a little slowdown as the day goes on for still a decent close. That is my prediction for Tesla. I think we might get a decent day. Now, I do want to warn you guys about a risk on SPY. So is SPY bullish? Yes. We closed above 498, and this thing has potential to push higher because we're forming a nice accumulation right here. Now, could we push higher? Yes, we can, but we have to see this thing break 498.7. If that breaks, watch 499. If we break that, 500 to 501 is our next target. For support, watch 488. If we lose this, there's 487.25. And if we lose that, 496 is coming, followed by basically 494. We also have a big gap to fill down there. So what do I think SPY is going to do? I think it's possible with this cup forming, nice accumulation, we could push a little higher. They might push a little bit higher. We might even see, the market attempt to push as we have a lot of these shorts expiring. And then what they might do is push it to this resistance zone as we get closer to 500. Then we might get a big rejection as we might get some profit takers and a lot of choppy price action to end the day. So I'm anticipating kind of like a pump and maybe not a complete dump, but maybe a slowdown later on during the day, especially because Logan is going to be speaking. So we might still try to hold up and make sure you watch how well we hold support. We could approach 500 again, but watch for a rejection. It might not hold as well as some people are suspecting. For the QQQ, this is bullish overall, trying to push up to 433. You could see how it's kind of hovering around this yellow trend line, getting above it, below it, above, below it, up and down, up and down. And we're basically approaching this resistance as we get close to 434. Now, if you reject off this, could come back down. Make sure you watch 432 as support. If you lose that, there's going to be 431, then 430 to 429. For resistance, make sure you watch the yellow trend line. If you break this, we could get close to 434 and eventually 435. So could the QQQ pump more? Yes, but that also depends on Nvda. My gut tells me it's going to try to push towards 434, so I'll be watching this resistance very, very carefully. Going to be looking for a nice push right here into this resistance zone, and we'll have to see how well it does. Might push a little higher than reject, and then end up closing maybe a little flat, but I think a little pop is still possible initially. Why do I say that? It's because of Nvidia. Nvidia is holding decently, but it's not looking as strong. It's going to try to fight for 700 tomorrow. Likely, we'll have to see if it holds. We had a cup and handle like formation. We kind of failed to get that breakout. So now Nvidia is kind of shuffling around 700. So we're going to be watching 700 tomorrow. If we break this, we could be looking for 707. If we reject off of it, it's going to come down to 692, then 687. I think that Nvidia can shuffle around 700, so I'll be watching that very carefully, and then we'll have to see how it does from there. But I think it's going to test it and shuffle around. It might help the QQQ push temporarily, but then we're going to be watching to see if we can try to break the all-time high. If you want to be bullish on Nvidia, we have to break above 712. If you want to be bearish on Nvidia, you want to see it lose 690. I think it's going to test 700. We'll have to see how it does. It might break above it, but I'm not as sure if we're going to actually break the highs for now because it's not looking as strong. So be very careful on Nvidia, and we'll just have to see how it goes. And with that being said, we could even draw out like a resistance level like this just to see how well it does. It could even be forming like a little channel over here. So we're going to be looking for a little push right here to test this resistance, and we'll see how it does after that. With that being said, that is it for the main ones I typically go over. Let me just go over a couple more. How is Tesla looking? Tesla is looking pretty good right now with all the news coming out about the German Gigafactory reopening. We're going to be watching to see if we could break the 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame at 190. If we do get a break, it's going to be pushing even higher. So look and see if we get a little liquidity grab, and then we start pushing higher to the higher levels. There's a good chance it might get a temporary breakout. There may be a slowdown at the end of the day thanks to Logan, but still hold up and get a green close. That's what I'm essentially predicting. For Rivian is looking bullish. We got a clean break of this resistance. Going to be looking to see if we could break above 16.4 to hit 16.9. If that breaks, 17.4 is coming. So I think Rivian has a breakout coming. Going to be looking for 16.9 very, very soon. And we might get very close to 17 as we look bullish. For SoFi, I'm going to skip over to SoFi. SoFi is testing 8.13. Watch that resistance at the 200 EMA. If we break this, we're going to be pushing for 8.4 to fill our gap. If we fail to do so, it is what it is, guys. It might reject and return to 7.9. So I think that there's a good chance it's going to fight for 7.14. We might try to break it, so watch to see if we do. If it breaks, look for a bigger push. Palantir is testing 25. If we break this, 26.2 is coming, then 28. If we reject off this, we're going to be returning back down towards 23.3, then eventually 22, which is the 20 EMA, excuse me. So watch that carefully. It's still fighting resistance at 25. The Russell 2000 looks bullish. If we break out of this, we're going to be looking for a push towards 198. So watch that very, very carefully. Overall, this trend is still bullish on this thing. Could retrace when we open towards the high 195s and push out from there. So watch that as well. For Microsoft, I think that there's a very good chance that Microsoft, it's a little push towards 416, which is the high we made previously, and a small rejection. So it has maybe limited upside in my opinion. We got a rejection off 416 in the past, might push towards that, then reject and return to 410. So that's what I think is going to happen. It might push a little bit more. AMD was supposed to break out, but it failed. It got a rejection off the 50 EMA. So if we continue to sink, we're going to be hitting 168. If we lose that, 165 is coming. So we're looking a little bit weaker. So watch that as well very, very carefully. SPX reached the notorious 5,000. We have this big gap below at 49.55, excuse me. So we'll see if this thing kind of pushes a little bit more. If it does, that's fine. But with the big divergences forming, we might see this thing retrace soon. So could we push a bit more? Yes, we can, but be careful. On the VIX looks like it might drop a little bit more. It does not look like it's done yet, which suggests that the market might push higher, causing the VIX to drop towards 12.4. So we might see the market push and the VIX might come down a little bit more, but we're going to be looking for a bounce close to 12. That suggests that the market is going to top soon, but the market has a little bit more to go. The market could push a little bit more, so watch that very carefully. The dollar is still holding up. If we manage to hold 104, this would be a little bearish for the markets. If we reject off this, watch for a little retracement. For the SQQQ, kind of flat right now. We'll see how that does. Coinbase, in my opinion, is basically approaching this resistance. If we break the 200 EMA and we manage to hold above 132, it could push towards 136. If we fail to hold this, we're going to return to 130 and then 126.5. So watch and see if we could hold 132.5. Looks like it might attempt to hold this at the 200 EMA and push for 136. It does favor the bulls slightly more. For Google Watch 148 as resistance. If you break this, 150 is our next target. The trend is bullish. We're slowly uptrending, and we broke the 50 EMA. So we called out Google a while back. I was saying that Google is going to uptrend many, many days ago, and that's what happened so far. So it's trying to make a recovery. It looks bullish for now, but watch how the market may dictate it. We could see a little pump in the morning, push a little bit into the 148, then reject and come down slowly if the market does slow down. So watch that as well. Amazon's looking a little bit weaker. We're going to be looking for a test of 168.96 to 169 all over again. If we lose that, 167 is coming. If we hold it, it's going to bounce. So watch it very carefully. We'll just have to see how it does. And finally, for Meta, if we bounce from here, we're going to be looking for a push towards this resistance right here at 475. If you reject right here, we're going to be testing 460. So we're basically in between supply and demand. So I'll be watching this very, very carefully. I think it might try to push towards 471.5. And if that breaks, we're going to push even higher. So watch that carefully for a little push, and we'll see how Meta does from there. So what is my view of the market? I think the market could push higher. I think SPY could get closer to 500. I think the VIX might get dragged down more. But just to be safe, watch resistance. Watch resistance very carefully. There's no guarantee that SPY is going to continue to break past 500, just push and push and push endlessly. We have some resistance coming up as the market is showing signs of higher risk, and be very careful as we continue to push. SPY has many big divergences on the daily. So does SPX. Could the market reverse soon? It may happen in a couple of weeks. But for now, the market is still a little bullish, so we could push a little bit more. Make sure you watch resistance at 500 to see how SPY reacts. Could Tesla push more? Yes, it can. It looks bullish to me overall. But make sure you're careful, especially if SPY and the QQQ reverse. Everything can start to change later on, so be careful for now. But for now, Tesla might drop in the morning, grab liquidity, then pump and try to break this resistance. If you break forward 190, watch 192 again. If we break that, 194 is coming, followed by a little rejection, sideways price action. Uh, the market may start strong, but the market could weaken because of Logan from the Fed giving a speech. So we'll see how it goes. But with that being said, have a great day, remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll most definitely see you guys on the next one. Thank you, Tesla, the market to the moon, because the long term is still incredibly bright. Despite what people are saying about the short term for Tesla, I think Tesla still has so much potential. Don't let the naysayers get in the way, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you, and peace out.